there are great truths in the Greek fables, aren't there, of mythology. It doesn't need to be true for us to derive truth from it.
The world is full of origin myths and creation myths and myths of all kinds, and many of them are very beautiful. But what worries me about the Bible is that it has acquired, in our civilization, an enormous privileged position. I mean, everybody knows something about the Greek myths and the Valhalla myths and so on, and some other myths as well. And they are interesting, and they're treated as interesting myths. But the Bible myths are given a special privileged treatment. I mean, they're regarded as somehow set off on one side, away from all these other myths. No doubt you'll find truths in the other myths. You'll find some truths of that kind in Australian Aboriginal myths.
Yes, although I'm looking for God.
Well, which God? I mean, why not Jupiter? Why not Zeus? Why not Thor?
Yes,
Personal opinions are of less interest than evidence-based views. And it is not that difficult to find evidence. There's plenty of... We have very, very good scientific methods for discovering what's true about certain things. For example, in the case of Holocaust denial, as somebody said, the problem with that is that it's a lie.
And creationism, similarly,
yes.
Is that a lie?
Yes. The Holocaust did happen. Evolution did happen. The evidence for both is absolutely overwhelming.
My question is for Professor Dawkins. Considering that atheism cannot possibly have any sense of absolute morality, would it not then be an irrational leap of faith, which atheists themselves so harshly condemn, for an atheist to decide between right and wrong?
Absolute morality, the absolute morality that a religious person might profess would include what? Stoning people for adultery, death for apostasy, punishment for breaking the Sabbath. These are all things which are religiously based absolute moralities. I don't think I want an absolute morality. I think I want a morality that is thought out, reasoned, argued, discussed, and based upon, I could almost say, intelligent design. Can we not design our society which has the sort of morality, the sort of society that we want to live in? If you actually look at the moralities that are accepted among modern people, among 21st century people, we don't believe in slavery anymore, we believe in equality of women, we believe in being gentle, we believe in being kind to animals. These are all things which are entirely recent. They have very little basis in biblical or Quranic scripture. They are things that have developed over historical time through a consensus of reasoning, sober discussion, argument, legal theory, political and moral philosophy. These do not come from religion. To the extent that you can find the good bits in religious scriptures, you have to cherry pick. You search your way through the Bible or the Quran, and you find the occasional verse that is an acceptable profession of morality. And you say, look at that, that's religion. And you leave out all the horrible bits. And you say, oh, we don't believe that anymore, we've grown out of that. Well, of course we've grown out of it. We've grown out of it because of secular moral philosophy and rational discussion.
Tony Burke.
Richard, if I preceded a question to you and said, atheists like Adolf Hitler, Richard Dawkins, and Joseph Stalin, ... would you take umbrage?
I would take umbrage, but I would defend your right to say it.
Yes, but I know, but what I wanted to point out is that in most of your writings, when you talk about religious people, you pluck out figures like the pilots who drove the airplanes into the Empire State Building.
Okay.
You pluck out people like the inquisitors of the Grand Inquisition, people like Jerry Falwell, and you must accept that for those of us who are of people of faith, to take these extremes, these horrible, horrible extremes, sinners in all our eyes now, as representative of our faith, is as offensive as you being lumped with Adolf and Joseph.
The difference between taking somebody like Hitler and taking somebody like the pilots who flew into the World Trade Center or Stalin. Stalin may have been an atheist, he was an atheist, but Stalin did not do his terrible deeds in the name of atheism. The people who flew planes into the World Trade Center precisely did their terrible deeds in the name of religion. They were righteous people. They believed they were doing right.
Okay.
They believed they were doing the will of Allah.
Right.
People believe in God because it provides them with a sense of hope. And without God, where would that sense of hope derive from?
Okay, first thing to say about that is that the universe does not owe you a sense of hope. It could be that the world, the universe, is a totally hopeless place. I don't, as a matter of fact, think it is. But even if it were, that would not be a good reason for believing in God. You cannot say, I believe in X, whatever X is, God or anything else, because that gives me hope. You have to say, I believe in X because there is some evidence for X. In the case of God, there is not a tiny shred of evidence for the existence of any kind of God.
But you see enough, but you see enough, as reading your books, I mean, there is something to be said for what you say about, you see enough in the beauty, for example, the scientific beauty of a rainbow to inspire you.
That's the second point I was coming on to, is that there's plenty of reason for hope in a godless world. The universe is a beautiful place, the world is a beautiful place. To understand it in a clear-eyed, open-eyed way, to look out at the world and to really understand why we exist, what it's all about, that is a hugely uplifting feeling. That really does give a sense of worth to life, even if life itself is finite, as I believe it is. Nevertheless, it is not a hopeless life without a God, and to revert to my earlier point, even if it were, then it's just illogical to say that that gives you evidence for the belief in God.
Here endeth the lesson.
Thank you.
Thank you. You believe that you know, Adam and Eve and Noah's Ark, you believe, to just take something, Genesis 19:5, two angels came to Lot's house in Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, he was the only righteous man in the village, and the locals wanted to know the angels. They wanted to homosexually rape the angels. So Lot offered his virgin daughters instead as an appeasement. Sodom and Gomorrah was demolished after that, and his wife turned into a block of salt when she looked back. You believe that happened?
I take my cues from Jesus, who we've already agreed is
Did
historically
that
accurate.
happen?
I believe that Jesus believed the Old Testament to be historically accurate.
Do you believe that that happened?
I believe it happened because Jesus did.